I think we're all quite excited that it could be the so-called flood tunnel booby trap system. Of course, we're going to investigate.
It is a significant opening.
This could be the offset chamber.
Another anomaly, it's this one in the northern tip of the swamp.
For more than 200 years, Oak Island has guarded a secret no one could crack. Now, at last, the truth has surfaced. Oak Island wasn't just a hiding place, it operated like a hidden bank, and Rick Lagina has finally uncovered the key. The long-whispered Templar vault, a chamber hunters have chased for centuries, has been confirmed. Not through guesses or theories, but hard evidence. A high-tech scan revealed the structure, and a borehole camera showed exactly what was inside, and what it revealed was unmistakable. This treasure isn't pirate loot or Spanish gold. It's Templar. Proof that the Knights crossed the Atlantic long before anyone imagined. But the part nearly everyone missed is that the vault didn't just hold Templar artifacts, it hid something the Templars themselves were trying to protect, something even older. What's wild is that this breakthrough almost didn't happen. The team had been focused entirely on the garden shaft, drilling deeper than ever based on new muon tomography scans, the same type of technology used to look inside ancient pyramids. Week after week, the screen showed nothing but solid earth and lifeless bedrock. Spirits were low. The garden shaft, once hyped as the game changer, looked like yet another dead end. Then everything shifted in an instant. A massive void appeared on the scan. Bold, dark, impossible to ignore. And it wasn't just deep. It was more than 200 feet down, far below the known level of the money pit, and completely isolated from all known flood tunnels. This wasn't a random cavity, it was deliberately sealed and protected. Rick Lagina insisted they move carefully. No blasting, no aggressive excavation. Just a small 6-inch borehole to send a camera into the darkness. As the drill dropped past 190 feet, it suddenly broke into open air. They had reached the void. When the HD camera descended, the first images were just murky debris. But then the lens cleared, and the entire room went silent. This was no natural cave. The walls were built from precisely cut stone blocks, far more refined than anything ever found in the money pit. The craftsmanship was advanced. Then the camera caught something more. Wood. Not the usual waterlogged, crumbling beams, but solid pieces, some ancient, some possibly placed later. One section, dark and almost black, looked like the lid of a massive chest. Rick's voice dropped to a whisper as he stared at the screen. But the moment that changed everything came seconds later. Leaning against the far wall was a flat stone carved with a symbol none of them could mistake. Not a pirate marking, a cross pate, the iconic flared cross of the Knights Templar. Marty Lagina leaned in, stunned. That's it, Rick. That's it. For the first time in more than 2 centuries, there was undeniable proof this was no pirate stash. This was a purpose-built Templar vault, hidden deep below the island. Gary Drayton was visibly emotional as he pointed out the craftsmanship. The carving wasn't crude or rushed. It was a maker's mark, a sign of ownership. Immediately, the team shifted into stabilization mode, and the air inside the chamber, stale but surprisingly breathable, proof that no one had opened this chamber in hundreds of years. The discovery didn't just validate Rick's instincts, it completely redefined Oak Island's story. The island's mystery wasn't about pirates at all. It was older, bigger, and far more consequential. But unlocking the vault itself required the most delicate engineering operation in the history of the island. For weeks, the crew worked to freeze the ground, install a massive caisson, and cut into the chamber without collapsing it. When they finally removed the stone floor, a rush of ancient air poured out, carrying the scent of cedar and sea salt. Rick and Marty were the first to step inside, and what they found was beyond anything they had imagined. The chamber was roughly 15 feet square, with a high arch ceiling, a crypt, not a pit, and it was full. Against the wall sat 3 enormous chests made of dark, almost black timber. Later, analysis revealed the wood was cedar of Lebanon, the same sacred wood used to build Solomon's temple. The chests were bound with a gold-colored alloy that had resisted corrosion. When they opened the first chest, the entire room glittered. Coins spilled out, gold bezants from Constantinople, silver deniers from France, coins from the Kingdom of Jerusalem, all dating before 1300. It wasn't just treasure, it was a time capsule of the medieval world. The second chest was even more astonishing. It contained documents, scrolls, maps, letters, records wrapped carefully in oiled cloth and sealed in wax. Linguists, brought in under absolute secrecy, began reading them. They found Templar ship logs, detailed maps of unfamiliar coastlines, and religious texts with implications too explosive to leak to the public. But the third chest held the true heart of the vault. Relics rested on crumbled velvet, a gold cross inlaid with large uncut gems, a silver chalice polished by time, and a sword crowned with a gleaming crystal pommel. Rick understood instantly what they were looking at. This wasn't a treasury, it was a sanctuary. These were the sacred items said to have vanished from the Paris Temple the night before the Templars were arrested in 1307. But the documents were the real shock. One massive parchment turned out to be a ship's log from 1308, describing how a fleet of Templar ships, guided by a stone map, fled France and sailed across the Atlantic to a safe island they called Quercus, Latin for oak. The log explained how the vault was constructed and revealed a twist that stunned the team. The famous flood tunnels weren't built to protect the treasure. They were built to mislead anyone trying to find it. The money pit was designed as a distraction. The real vault lay deeper, separate and impossible to reach without the right knowledge. Another parchment declared Oak Island a new Templar stronghold, signed by high-ranking knights who were believed to have died in France. They hadn't died at all. They had escaped. The accompanying map of the world was even more startling. It showed the coastlines of North and South America with eerie accuracy centuries before Columbus. The relics themselves bore symbols linked to an elite inner circle of the Templars, the group rumored to have carried the true relics from Jerusalem. Rick Lagina hadn't just uncovered treasure, he had uncovered the missing link in one of the greatest mysteries in history. But among all the gold, relics and scrolls, one object didn't belong. In the corner of the third chest sat a small, rough lead box, older than everything else in the vault, hiding a secret the Templars themselves may have feared. What they found next wasn't like the grand relic sitting proudly inside the vault. This object wasn't ornate or beautiful. It was plain, dense, and sealed shut with a strange resin no one on the team had ever seen before. When they finally managed to crack it open, there was no flash of gold waiting inside, no Christian artifact, no Templar symbol. Instead, lying on a piece of faded linen, was a single polished slab of black stone, heavy, cold, ancient, and engraved from edge to edge with writing. But this wasn't Latin, it wasn't Hebrew, it wasn't Greek. When experts examined the markings, they realized the symbols belonged to a script even older than the oldest Phoenician forms, a language that came from the dawn of Middle Eastern civilization, thousands of years before the Templars ever existed. And tucked beside the tablet was a small leather pouch, not filled with jewels or trinkets, but a handful of coins from the Roman Republic, coins that predated the 1st century BC. In a single moment, the entire narrative shifted again. The Templars didn't create this artifact, they carried it, and for them, it was already unimaginably old. This discovery cracked open the wildest theories about Oak Island, the ones scholars and skeptics always rolled their eyes at. The idea that the island's mystery stretches back not hundreds, but thousands of years. The evidence now suggests the Templars stumbled onto something in Jerusalem, something ancient even in their time, something tied to civilizations long gone, maybe even a remnant of treasures once held in Solomon's temple. Whatever this stone tablet represented, the Templars clearly knew it was powerful, sacred, dangerous. They protected it the only way they knew how, by carrying it across an ocean and burying it deeper than anyone could reasonably dig. Rick Lagina and the team suddenly understood the truth. The Templars weren't the beginning of Oak Island's story. They were simply the custodians of a mystery that started ages before their order was ever founded. Their vault wasn't built just to hide their own wealth or escape the wrath of a European king. It was constructed to conceal that single, impossible artifact from the world. And now that it's been found, everything we thought we knew about the island is rewritten. It's no wonder people everywhere are losing their minds over this. Forums are erupting. Researchers who dismissed Oak Island as fantasy are suddenly very quiet. But this wasn't some overnight miracle. You don't just stumble into the greatest archaeological revelation of the century by luck. This moment is the result of more than 10 relentless years of work by the Lagina brothers. A decade of pouring millions into mud, sand, and seawater. A decade of enduring skeptics, setbacks, and misfires. They brought in world-class experts, deployed cutting-edge technology, drilled through impossible geology, and pushed farther than any searcher before them. And behind them stand more than 2 centuries of men who tried and failed. Treasure hunters who lost everything chasing this enigma. Daniel McGuinness, who first noticed the odd depression in 1795. The Onslow Company, the Restall family, generations of searchers who believed the island was hiding something extraordinary. They were right. The Laginas were simply the ones who lived long enough and stubborn enough to prove it. But the question everyone is asking now is painfully simple. Is this real? In a world full of hoaxes, Photoshop, and sensational claims, it's the obvious thing to question. Yet the evidence is not just compelling, it's overwhelming. The Templar-marked stones, the cedar fragments dating centuries before Columbus, the ancient maps depicting Oak Island's location long before Europeans recorded it, and those Roman coins buried deep beneath layers of undisturbed Nova Scotian soil. Artifacts don't lie. What's staggering is that this confirmation doesn't tie up the story with a neat little bow. It does the opposite. It blows the entire mystery wide open. If the Templars truly built this vault, what else did they bring? How did they cross the Atlantic? Why choose this tiny, obscure island at the edge of the New World? And perhaps the most difficult question of all, what becomes of the treasure now? Because Oak Island is no longer just a curiosity. It's now one of the most important archaeological sites on the planet. This is far beyond finders keepers. The Canadian government will undoubtedly make a claim. France may have a stake because of the Templars. And the Vatican? If these relics hold religious significance, they will not stay silent. This treasure, this history, belongs to humanity, not just a handful of searchers. And looming over everything is the old legend, the curse. The warning whispered for 2 centuries that 7 must die before the treasure is found. 6 lives have already been lost to the island's unforgiving traps and tunnels. 6 families changed forever. Now that the vault is open, the question hangs in the air. Has the price been paid? Or was the curse nothing more than another layer of misdirection, like the money pit itself? One last attempt to keep intruders far, far away from the truth? But even after the vault was opened, and the world felt the ground shift beneath its feet, Rick knew the story wasn't done. If anything, the discovery only exposed a deeper layer, one that no one on the island had ever expected to confront. Because while the world was fascinated by the treasure, the relics, and the ancient tablet, something far stranger was unfolding behind the scenes. Something the cameras almost missed. It started with vibrations, light, rhythmic pulses detected by seismic equipment the team had left running near the garden shaft. At first, the engineers assumed it was machinery from the crew, but the patterns didn't match any drill, pump, or pressure system. These pulses weren't random. They were deliberate, repeating every 77 minutes, precise to the second. Some believed it was just settling Earth. Others feared a structural collapse deep below the surface. Rick didn't buy either explanation. He had seen this kind of pattern once before, years ago, in a set of obscure Templar notes referencing a heartbeat beneath the stone, a warning left by a knight who claimed the vault was only the beginning. That message, dismissed at the time as superstition, suddenly sounded eerily familiar. And as the pulses grew stronger, the readings on the monitors began forming shapes, angular formations that resembled markings carved into the ancient tablet they had just discovered. It was as if the ground itself was responding. The deeper they dug into the data, the more unsettling the truth became. These weren't geological tremors, they were signals. Someone or something left a mechanism beneath the vault, not to defend the treasure, but to activate when the vault was opened. And that's exactly what had happened. Within hours of the vault's discovery, the pulses intensified, spreading far beyond the garden shaft. The team recorded faint metallic echoes coming from deep underground, like machinery shifting after centuries of silence. And then came the sound that stopped Rick cold, a low, resonant hum that didn't belong in any natural environment, a sound that seemed to vibrate in the bones. It was the same frequency found etched into the black stone tablet. Experts brought in under non-disclosure agreements analyzed the slab in every possible way: laser surface scanning, spectral imaging, microscopic analysis. And what they found shocked them. The carved symbols acted like instructions, not religious text, not a map, not even a warning. It was a blueprint for a device that predated every known civilization by thousands of years. A device that the Templars didn't understand either, only feared. They hid it not because they wanted to protect it from the world, but because they wanted to protect the world from it. And now, for the first time in centuries, that device was waking up. The pulses began syncing with lunar cycles. Magnetic equipment on the island malfunctioned. Animals behaved strangely, birds circling overhead at dusk, seals abandoning the shoreline, deer fleeing the forest in patterns that looked almost coordinated. And every night, right as the clock struck 2:11 a.m., the hum echoed again, rising from the depths like a whisper from the earth. It didn't take long for the artifact experts to reach the most alarming conclusion yet. The device wasn't complete. The tablet described only one component: the heart of the vault. The rest of the mechanism was still buried somewhere deeper on the island. Rick realized something horrifying. The vault wasn't just a hiding place, it was a checkpoint, and opening it had triggered the next stage. Over the next several days, drilling operations around the island uncovered cavities far below the existing vault. Elongated tunnels lined with stone that didn't belong to any known architecture in North America. At the end of one tunnel, a smooth, dome-shaped chamber echoed with the same rhythmic pulses. In another, the walls emitted faint traces of sound, as if carrying vibrations from a distant source. Every chamber pointed toward a deeper central point, one no drill had ever reached, the real chamber, the true heart of the island. Rick knew they had to reach it, but the deeper they drilled, the stranger things became. Boring equipment stalled without explanation. Steel bits snapped as if they struck something impenetrable. Ground-penetrating radar readings came back blank, as if the space was absorbing the signals. Even the team's most advanced sensors couldn't penetrate whatever lay beneath. And then came the most unsettling discovery of all. A carved spiral tunnel, perfectly symmetrical, descending far below the main vault, constructed with engineering precision far beyond the Templars. The walls were made of stone that did not match Nova Scotia's geology. Polished, dense, seamless, almost metallic, and at the deepest point they could safely access, the tunnel abruptly ended at a perfectly smooth stone seal, cold to the touch, slightly curved, and marked with the exact same symbol found on the tablet. A circle split by a line, a symbol older than the oldest languages. Rick ran his fingers across it and felt something impossible. Heat. A faint warmth, pulsing from behind the stone in perfect sync with the vibrations. Whatever lay beyond this door was alive. Not alive as in biological, alive as in active, operating, waiting. Every expert on site agreed on one thing. This was technology, not architecture. Ancient technology, the kind that shouldn't exist, the kind that rewrites history. And suddenly, the questions grew even darker. Who built this? How did they carve stone harder than granite without metal tools? How did they generate energy deep underground? Why Nova Scotia? Why Oak Island? And perhaps most chilling of all, why were the Templars terrified of it? As the world celebrated the discovery of the Templar Vault, Rick and Marty understood the truth they couldn't publicly reveal. This was bigger than treasure, bigger than Templars, bigger than anything ever uncovered in North America. This wasn't a vault. It was a warning sealed away by the Templars after they found something ancient, something they believed powerful enough to reshape the world. They dedicated their lives to hiding it, building traps, tunnels, decoys, and a false money pit to divert anyone who got too close. And yet here we are. The final seal stands untouched. The hum grows louder every night. The pulses are increasing. Something is waking up beneath Oak Island. And when the final barrier falls, the world won't just learn a hidden chapter of history. It may face a revelation it isn't prepared to understand. If you're ready to see what happens next, hit that like button, drop your theories in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed, because the deepest mystery of Oak Island hasn't even been opened yet. The vault is open. The world is watching. But the bigger question remains, are we ready for what comes next? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and make sure to subscribe, because the next chapter of this mystery is just beginning.